Hi, I'm Tyra G, your host of Frankly Speaking with Tyra G. Welcome again to our virtual, global gathering of phenomenal women and those of you who love them. Yes, you, mothers, daughters, grand and great-grandmothers, fearsome and generous, humble and honest, in pursuit of new possibilities and promise. You know we dig deep here and we come up strong. For those of you joining us for the first time, each month we explore a new theme inspired by you. Yes, I said you. We bravely walk into places where tradition has taught us there's some things we just don't talk about, but not at this table. And no matter how hard judgment knocks, it will not get in. Beloved, here we live beyond the wreckage. Every week we experience, educate, encourage, and empower each other. We share some aha moments and stories that have been left in our pockets for too long. Every week we start right where we are. I am so excited about how the show is progressing. We are celebrating the 7th month of proof that dreams can come true. The 7th month. Frankly Speaking with Tyra G is one of my most precious dreams. I thank God for every remembrance of you and your gifts of ideas, your presence, your encouragement. You know they're the gifts that have inspired me, right? I can't do this without you. Thank you so much. You're listening to Radio Fairfax, Virginia on your TV, computer, or mobile device, and we are webcast worldwide on the internet at www.radiofairfax.org every Saturday evening at 8 p.m. Now, should you miss us? No worries. You can catch our podcast on YouTube. Just look for Frankly Speaking with Tyra G. And if you feel like connecting with me offline, you know how I love that, right? Well, it's easy. Email me at tyragarlington.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you, Courtney Nero, for composing and performing our Frankly Speaking theme song and for naming it, I'm Listening. This is March, Women's History Month, and our theme is Women of Wonder. Wow. I like to begin each month by sharing a few words of wisdom that relate to our theme from trailblazers who have made us proud to be women. This month's quotes include, number 1, to all the little girls who are watching, never doubt that you are valuable and powerful and deserving of every chance and opportunity in the world to pursue and achieve your own dreams. Now, that was Hillary Clinton in her 2016 concession speech. I picked that one because it's important to realize it's not how many times we fall down, it's how many times we get back up and try again. And she just keeps on keeping on. The second one, I raise up my voice, not so I can shout, but so those without a voice can be heard. We cannot succeed when half of us are held back. That's from the youngest Nobel Prize laureate, Malala, a Pakistani, an advocate for education for women and girls. She was shot by the Taliban in this effort to pursue her passion. She continues to this day with commitment and energy. And for all young women, age is not a factor when you have a dream. If you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. That's Margaret Thatcher, former British Prime Minister. And next, it took me a long time to develop a voice. And now that I have it, I'm not going to be silent. That's Madeleine Albright, former U.S. Secretary of State. There is no limit to what we as women can accomplish. And that's our former First Lady, Michelle Obama. And finally, although not a woman, a fountain of wisdom, the second president of the Church of Latter-day Saints, Mr. Brigham Young says, You educate a man, you educate a man. You educate a woman, you educate a generation. I just love that one. I had to sneak that one in. Now, although this is Women's History Month, I think of each of us as women of wonder. I celebrate us all in all ways, always. To create our common thought space today, here are some more words of encouragement and empowerment on how to sustain ourselves as women of wonder and live the life we were created to live, full of grace. The following words are taken from the book Until Today, published in 2000 by our friend and coach, Ms. Van Sant. But before I begin her quote, let me add an editorial comment. Life is a process. It's not an event. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We come here without stuff. We create stuff while we're here, and we leave stuff behind, and that's okay. However, during the process, we must not judge ourselves on how many times we fall, but on how many times we get back up. Add those words to the following quote. I am now receptive to the idea that when I get there, everyone will not be there. If you really want to live your life to the fullest and realize your greatest potential, you must be willing to run the risk of making some people mad. Oh yeah, they'll get mad. Whenever you move beyond someone's opinion of you, they get upset because you thought more of yourself than they thought of you. If you want to know just how much you can do, how far you can reach, how much you can stretch, you must be willing to leave some people behind. You must be willing to do more, be more, have more than those in your present company have. This does mean that you compare yourself to them, but it doesn't mean that you're showing off. Oh no, it means you must be willing to step out on your own. Try life for yourself and claim your divine inheritance without guilt. This is not being a snob. This is being obedient to God. Until today, you may have been holding on to other people's opinions about you and doing your best to keep people with you and on your side. But just for today, take a risk. Tell somebody what you really want for your life. Tell someone you do not agree with their opinion of you. Then jump into the center of your own life and get comfortable being there. Your affirmation is, today, I am devoted to living my life without guilt and based on my own opinion. Let's repeat after me. Today, I am devoted to living my life without guilt and based on my own opinions. Now back to my editorial comment. Jumping into the center of your life, your own life, includes revelations, questions, surprises, and challenges. I found out that blessings often come with burdens, and miracles often come with messes. Sometimes we live at a pace of breakthrough, and sometimes we feel like we're on hold as we're being prepared on purpose. Today, we're going to have a kaleidoscope conversation with a guest who has experienced all of the above with authenticity, vulnerability, and faith. She has chosen to theme our conversation, "The sparkle depends on the flaw in the diamond." Let me say that again. The sparkle depends on the flaw in the diamond. I'm going to ask her to unpack her title as it relates to her life as she introduces herself. Now, after a break, you're going to meet a woman who proves that problems are visible, promise not always. Purpose is in the chase, and there is purpose in the pain. So you stay close now. And we are back. At this time, I would like to present to many and introduce to many more Reverend Zemoria Brandon. Welcome, Zemoria, and thank you so much for joining me today.
It is indeed an honor, and I'm just listening to all the things you're saying, and it's like you are reading my story, you're reading my mind, you are in tune with my spirit and some of the things that I want to share. So I am really grateful, first of all, to my sister, Yolanda McGee
Yes.
Savory, for connecting us, and she's there in Columbus, Ohio. And we were just talking, and she says, my friend, she's producing a radio show, and I think that she would be great to be on it. So I just want to thank her publicly for connecting us, and I'm looking forward to being able to share. It's so important to be able to share, Tyra G, as you've already mentioned, and oftentimes we walk this journey with so much inside of us, not knowing that we can't heal what is not revealed. And
Yes,
so to be
yes.
able to reveal what has gone on and the challenges that you've been through in your life can certainly have a profound impact on someone else that may be going through the same thing. And they can learn from that experience. They can grow. They can be
Yes.
inspired. So I appreciate this Women of Wonder, wow, theme for March, which is Women's History Month. And
Yes.
thank you again for the opportunity to connect.
I will say this. I absolutely, if you haven't figured it out, I love what I do. I have met some fabulous people, and I call them my divine connections. I didn't expect so much to come to me without the asking, and that's the thing that's a surprise. I'm not going out searching for guests. Somebody said, "You know what? I like what you're doing. There's someone you need to talk to." And so I was delighted when Miss Yolanda said, "Hey, my sister is someone that you need to talk to. Your lives will resonate." And that's what we're about to do. So I don't want you to do a resume. Tell us your story.
Well, it's quite a story, and we all have one. Um, so my story is I am a woman, first of all, that was my birth experience. I want to start with that. And the
Okay.
reason why is because years ago I was at a retreat with a woman out of New York named Queen Afua.
Mm-hmm.
And she said in the session, I want you to focus in on your birth experience.
Uh-huh.
And everybody was like, my birth experience? Like, how would I remember that? So she says, I'm going to take you through the meditation journey. And
So
when you
Moria,
come out,
I'm going to interrupt you just 1 second. I'm getting a little bit of static, and I don't want anything to interrupt your story. Can we just test a little bit on your end? I don't want the static to come through, and see if it's my end or your end.
okay, sure.
Just keep talking, and I'll try and get it calibrated.
All right. So in that session, she took us through meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, and when you come out, you will know about your birth experience. You will be able to share that. And we were just couldn't believe that that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
So nevertheless, we went through that experience, and when we came out, each person was to share what they received in the spirit.
Mm.
So what I received in the spirit, which I never focused on, was the fact that I am the oldest child of my mother, but I'm not. I am the second child that she had. My brother, he was a stillborn.
Mm.
And so because of that experience, there was a lot of anxiety around my birth. What would happen to me? Was I going to make it?
Mm-hmm.
Being that I was in the same womb of the woman who lost my brother. And so I came through. God allowed me to come through that same womb. And so that, to me, set the tone for my life of being someone that has to break through
Mm.
all the barriers that were going to be put in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been the story of my life, one of challenges, struggles, twist and turn. But also with coming through, God gave me the ability to endure all that happened to me in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at that as setting the tone for my life. And then the name that I was given by my mother, Zemoria,
Mm-hmm.
which is Z as in zebra, Emoria. And so when people say, well, where does it come from? I say the name was divined through my mother. What do you mean by that? I said because my mother was a woman from Mississippi, and the names that she was given and her sister, she didn't like them. My mother's name was Martha Pearl. Her sister was Sarah Agnes.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother said, I hated all of that. And she vowed that she would not give her children those names. So she had a friend named Zenobia, and she wanted to give me that name, but then she said she wanted to give me a name that would distinguish me. And when I turned 50, she spoke at my 50th birthday. She said, I gave Zemoria a name that I thought would distinguish her, but instead she has distinguished the name.
I like that.
So it's my birth experience, my name, going to school and having a name of Zemoria when you're going to school with Mary, Susan, Jane, Kathy, Sally. And not that there's anything wrong with those names, but it was a standout name, and it really positioned me for the journey that I was going to be on throughout my life. Not all positive, but being able to endure whatever was put before me. So as a girl growing up, being the oldest of four, I was involved with a lot of different activities. I was athletic. I ran track. I played baseball. I was the only girl on a boys' baseball team.
I like that. I love that.
I could hit well, I could throw far, and I could catch good.
Wait a minute.
So
I'm writing those words. I could hit well, I could throw far. I'm going to use this, right? And I could catch good.
That's right, yeah.
I
was the only girl on the boys' baseball team, so I was very athletic. And then as I went through school and I started thinking about, what spoke to me, because I was always reading and things like that. And when they would say, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I want to be a nurse, because my mother always took me to the hospital with her to visit people that were sick.
Oh.
And I never felt uncomfortable about it. I was always intrigued by going in the hospital and seeing people that were there, and maybe they were hooked up to a lot of things. It didn't frighten me at all. So I said, I'm going to be a nurse. So as time went on, more things came into my sphere that I never expected. So in school, I enjoyed singing because my mother exposed us to all genres of music, and she heard me singing one day, and she says, "You can sing," and she'd have me stand at her bedroom door and be singing music like Barbra Streisand and other artists that she exposed us to. And when I was in high school, my high school music teacher, I was in the girls' a cappella choir. He called my mother to the school and said, your daughter can sing, and if she had some professional voice classes, she would really be great. So my mother put me in voice classes, and I began to sing Italian opera and classical music and perform at different places. And that was just quite something to be able to do that. And then, Tyra, there came a period in my life where I just felt that I didn't fit in, that I didn't belong. And it was really based on how people responded to the way that I looked. So I was a tall girl, long, tall, thin body, big feet, and the full lips.
Mm.
And so people would call me names, and bully me
Mm-hmm.
about how I looked.
Mm-hmm.
So I believed what they said about me.
Mm.
And that took a toll on me until one day I was at an event and this man said to me, do you model? And I said, no. He says, well, you should. And so I got involved with this modeling group, and I became a professional model, runway model, and a hair model, and began to feel more confident about myself. And I didn't do it for the whole fashion or look at me. I saw it as a way to confront my fear head on because, when you're a professional model and you step out on the runway, people are going to either applaud you or boo you. And so it made me very vulnerable, but also gave me the confidence that I needed to move forward in my life. So I did that for a number of years. And then because of my interest in nursing and serving and all of that, I worked with children with special needs.
Mm.
And I did that in Chicago. And then I met my husband, Walter Brandon, in Chicago, who was going to seminary school, getting a master's in divinity and also a master's in social work at the University of Illinois. And we began dating. And then I found out that he had sickle cell disease.
Mm.
When he asked me to marry him, Tyra, he told me that he had sickle cell disease.
Ouch.
And so this was interesting, and was I going to say yes or was I going to be afraid? And I said yes to him. And so about a year later, we relocated from Chicago to Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And I continued my work in Philadelphia working with children with special needs. And then after 7 years of doing that, I decided to leave that industry, and I became a flight attendant. I'm wearing so many hats in my life, it's just amazing with all the things when I look back at all that I've done. So I became a flight attendant, then I became a supervisor of
Mm-hmm.
flight attendants,
Mm-hmm.
and I did that for about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then my husband decided to start an organization for people affected by sickle cell disease.
Yes.
And I got involved with that from the beginning, and that is my full-time work that I do presently. I'm the administrator, social worker for the Sickle Cell Disease Association of America. We are the Philadelphia, Delaware Valley chapter.
Let me ask you to do
Here,
something.
I decided to go to school, went to Temple University, and got my undergraduate degree in social work.
Okay.
And from there, along with my work with this community of people, I've gotten involved with the African and Caribbean community, people that are living with the illness, and become very interested in immigration. So I'm on the board of 2 organizations, and I'm co-chair of the Legal and Immigration Committee. And then, Tyra, I went to seminary school. I felt the call to go to seminary school. And I went to a school in New York that was the new seminary for interfaith studies. And I was very interested in interfaith because in growing up in Chicago in the community called Hyde Park, which is where Barack Obama lived, the church that we went to was an interracial church. The community was international. And that always spoke to me, that there are many paths. And I wanted to go to a school that would focus on teaching us and learning about all the world religions. So I did that, completed that program in 2011. And then that year, 2 profound things happened to me. In January of that year, I was very interested in my our DNA, the family DNA, the history, the lineage, where do we come from? So I did the DNA test and found out that my mother's ancestral line goes back to the Akan people in Accra, Ghana. That was in January. I graduated from seminary in June, and in October of that year, I was nominated and installed as a development queen for the Ashri royal family, which is located in Accra, Ghana. So I'm involved with that work. I've been assigned to a village in Accra, Ghana, and certainly with my work here in Philadelphia, working with the African and Caribbean community, it has brought me full circle with all the things that I'm doing. It's just like sometimes I say, how could I have done all of those things? How could I have been exposed to such richness? But it has certainly added so much to my life, to the point where I can relate to anybody on any level because of all the experiences that I've had that continue to unfold. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, it's a lot there. More could be unpacked. But that's my life story, my journey from Chicago to Philadelphia, and I've been here in Philadelphia since 1974. So I've been here a long time, and people think that I'm from here because I've involved with so much going on.
Let me interrupt you out of my own need, actually, because as you said, in a nutshell,
I'm
your
having
nutshell.
a little time hearing you, Tyra.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you turn up the volume on your phone? Because I'm at the top level of mine. Can you hear me now?
My volume is up.
Can you hear me now?
It's very faint.
Okay, I hope we don't have to interrupt this. I wanted to ask you a question. Even if I'm faint, I hope you can hear the question. I broke up your story into several sections, as you might guess, and I started with what's in a name. And I did that because as you were talking about your mother naming you, I was thinking about my name, which is Tyra, and it was an interesting name to grow up with for many reasons, similar to yours. But I wanna park on sickle cell. Okay, this is an intergenerational and international audience, and I'm hoping that you can quickly frame what is that, why is it significant to us, and briefly, can you do that for us?
I certainly can. Yes.
Okay.
So sickle cell is it's a disease of the red blood cell. It's a red blood cell disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And the red blood cell includes something called hemoglobin, which is the oxygen component that carries what you need to make each organ in the body function efficiently. And so the word sickle comes from the farmer's tool, which is used to cultivate the land. And so the sickle cell is in a half moon or a crescent shape, and that's where the name comes from. So the normal red blood cell, which is round, pliable, moves very easily through the blood vessels, lasts for only 120 days. The sickle cell lives for 12 to 20 days. So the body is constantly replenishing itself, trying to keep up with how often these cells have to be replenished. And so what happens is it is a multi-organ disease that affects your liver, your kidneys, your spleen, your heart, your eyes. A multitude of things can happen. It is a disease that impacts children, adolescents, adults. It's something that you're born with. You can't acquire it. You have to be born with it. It's passed on from parent to child. It is a disease that impacts African Americans in the greatest numbers. However, we now say that it is a global illness impacting people of African, Caribbean, Latino, Native American, Greek, Sicilian, Asian, and Turkish ancestry. So it is a global illness impacting 1 out of every 500 African Americans, 1 out of every 12 is a trait carrier. And that number there, the trait carrier, is very significant. We have about 2.5 million or more that are living with the trait. So
and I want to, can you hear me?
Typically with the trait, you don't even realize that you're carrying the trait because there are no symptoms. And so when two people with the trait come together, there's a 25% chance that the baby would be born with sickle cell disease, 50% chance the baby would be born with sickle cell trait, and a 25% chance that the baby won't be born with either of those. So this is very significant because just like in HIV and AIDS, we say, do you know your status? And we say in the sickle cell community, do you know your status? In light of the fact that 1 out of every 12 is carrying the trait, it would be important to be tested to know whether or not you are a trait carrier. Most times, men that go into the military, this is how they find out. But now in all 50 states, every baby that's born, regardless of their ethnicity, they're automatically tested at birth to see whether or not they have sickle cell disease or sickle cell trait.
Can you hear me, Zemoria?
Now that more people are finding out, and of
Guess
course,
not.
if it's something that runs in your family, a woman can be tested through amniocentesis, which is they put a needle in the abdomen to pull out the fluid to determine whether or not the baby that she's carrying may have the trait or the disease. So it is a disease that we don't often hear a lot about. There are people that we know that have lived with the illness. One that I wanted to mention is Miles Davis. I don't know if people are aware that he actually had the disease, and it was a very difficult journey for him, which is often why his behavior may seem a little different because he was in pain, enduring pain, or sometimes he would perform and he would turn his back to the audience, and so he had a lot of complications with the illness. And of course, one of the most well-known celebrities is T-Boz of TLC that has sickle cell disease, and at one time was a national spokesperson for our national headquarters. So that's just a little bit about sickle cell disease. But
can you hear me, Zemoria? Can you hear me?
For your
for the audience, I'm having a hard time connecting with
her. Whether it runs in your family or not. And oftentimes when a child is born between two trait carriers, people will say, well, how could that be? Because no one in my family has the disease. But it's because the two people didn't know their status. They did not know that they were trait carriers. So it is very important. My husband, Walter Brandon, had the illness. We were married for 25 years. I learned so much from being married to him that I now use that experience of what I learned in my work with the Sickle Cell Disease Association. So that's very much a part of my life, and I can speak on any level, and oftentimes I speak with families and couples that may have someone in their family that has the disease, and helping them to understand how to navigate the system, what questions to ask when you go to the emergency room or when you go to the doctor. It is a very serious issue. A lot of research is going on with bone marrow transplantation. People are being cured of the disease. There is no universal cure. There is clinical trials for bone marrow transplantation and other things that are going on to try to find a universal cure for this disease.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I tried to stop you a couple of times, and I got no response. First of all, thank you for that. And second of all, for my audience, this has been a bit awkward as I've tried to interrupt, and Zemoria wasn't able to hear me, but at least you got the information that you needed. For me, this particular story is personal because I am a trait carrier, and I did not know until I was in my early 30s that I had this. And my mother was a trait carrier, and she did not know until I was tested. So it is significant that we have information and processes to help us identify the illness, because we obviously want to minimize the percentage of people that are born with it because of the discomfort and because of the end of the disease.
The complications that come along with it.
Yes, absolutely.
And there are many complications.
Yes, and I wanted to say as well, sometimes the things that happen to us personally are the very things that move us in the direction in which we were created to go. And for me, being able to speak to people about a vulnerable space, for me, that's a vulnerable space. And I have met many other people with symptoms and the disease. And it is not a pleasant thing to watch or to have. But I wanted to thank you so much for sharing the personal aspect of that. I had written something before we decided just to have a conversation, and my words were, let's start with what seems like a conclusion and have you take us backwards and forwards through your story. And I wrote, Reverend Zemoria Brandon was married and a caregiver for 25 years to the late Reverend Walter E. Brandon, who, at the age of 59 years, passed from complications of sickle cell disease. And there it is. A child of God, this is you, a wife, a mother, a caregiver, a widow, a public policy advocate, a citizen of the world, and so much more. And after this next very short break, I want you to go back to what you found out about Ghana and say in words that might be internationally understood that you are a queen. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, I hope that you'll be able to hear me, because we're getting close to where I'll have to manage the time. But we're going to go ahead and take a short break, okay?
Yes.
All righty. And we are back. I have these words before me, and I'm going to ask Zemoria to unpack them after I've read them, okay? It says, in recognition of her commitment to the African and Caribbean community, in 2011, she was nominated by the USA Chief, okay, I'm going to mess up on this, pronounce it for me, Nikwate? Nikwate. And this is what got me. And installed as development queen into Azir. Is that correct?
Ashri.
Oh, look at me. All right, you said
okay.
Ashri royal family located in Accra, Ghana. Now, she lives in Philadelphia, okay? So I want her to help you understand how, as a queen, she's in Philadelphia managing this stuff in Ghana. And I have to tell you, Zemoria, in case we have some technical difficulties, you have 3 minutes to do this.
Okay.
All right. I love it.
All right. So, and that's fine. So, Nikwate.
Nikwate.
I'll tell you, Nikwate, the
Okay.
USA chief,
Okay.
was a friend and my podiatrist, and his office was across the street from my house.
Oh, my goodness.
And he watched me for 20 years with my husband and the work that I was doing.
Oh.
And he called me in September of 2011 to say, I would like to nominate you to be installed as one of our queens because I have watched your work and I know that you're worthy. So I was installed with one other woman and two other men, and the kingmaker of the Ashri royal family, Ni Amarkai III,
Okay.
came to Philadelphia to do the installment ceremony.
Uh-huh.
He gave me the name of Na Dede Ota the First, and the name means one who nurtures and takes care of others, or Mother Earth.
Oh, I love it. Or Mother Earth. It's either
It's
or.
or Mother Earth. Mother Earth is really the title, but then he broke it down. One who nurtures and takes care of others.
Oh,
and that's what
it.
I've done all of my life.
I love
and
it.
And then they assigned me to the village of Ajin Kotoku.
I'm not trying that one, okay? That one's on you.
Which is the village I've been assigned to. And so I'm part of a royal delegation.
Okay.
There are many that have been installed in the United States, and I'm part of the delegation of women that have been installed as queens and men that are chiefs. And so we come together for different programs and things, raising money for the different villages that we are a part of. So it is an honor, because I remember I talked earlier about in January of that year, I found out that my mother's ancestral line goes back to the Akan people in Accra, Ghana.
Okay.
Dr. Ni Kwate did not know anything about that. And so this was like divine order.
Yeah.
It was like it called it forth once I found this information out, So I have a certificate of authenticity for the DNA test and all of that. But I'm just saying how two separate things came together,
I do.
So, and growing up, I was always interested in Africa and all of that. And my mother would say, what are you doing with all that African stuff, and you all are wearing all those African clothes and blah, 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 blah. And she passed before I found this information out. But at the information, the connection was always calling me. It's like I wanted to know more. I was at all these cultural events. I'm dealing with people from the continent, and it just felt so comfortable. I felt the connection.
Let me tell you what I see, okay? I'm a very visual person. Now, I can't pronounce any of the things you said correctly, but what I see is a tall, athletic woman in regalia from Ghana, assuming her position over Mother Earth. That's what I see.
Okay. Yes.
And it brings smiles to me. I need to ask you to do something for me. I know we've had to skip around, but I do ask of each of my guests, please, to spend a couple of 3 minutes reading a letter they will have written to their younger self. Would you mind doing that for me now, Zemoria?
I will do that to my younger self, and I'm bringing her full circle, Tyra.
Okay.
And so my nickname, the name I grew up with, is Ziggy. So it goes, Dear Ziggy, let me begin my love letter to you with the following words. I see you. I remember all too well your issues with low self-esteem and the profound impact it had in so many areas of your life. But throughout your journey, although you didn't know it, you were gaining strength and learning lessons to prepare you for your future. Let me remind you about some of those challenges you faced and how you've been able to overcome and move forward on your journey. Your experience of being a teenage mother made you feel that your life was over because of the reaction of family and others. However, then you wouldn't have known that you were being prepared to be a mother of 2 wonderful children and a grandmother to 4 unique, special, and beautiful grandchildren. I remember when you were sexually violated. This was a time of devastation and confusion. But these experiences eventually led you on a spiritual journey, allowing you to embrace the power of forgiveness, which sets you free. Each time something happened in your life that rocked you to the core and allowed you to believe the illusion that you would never, ever recover from what was going on. This is when God stepped in to carry, elevate, and lift you higher and higher. Through all that you've been through, I hope you understand these experiences were only your spiritual assignments that were used as a catalyst to prepare you for your future in spiritual leadership, healing others, service to humanity, and as a living demonstration of God's grace and mercy. I see you, a woman of character, strength, humility, discernment, and wisdom. I am you, and you are me. Let me end and leave you with the following quote by John Mark Green. Beautiful are those whose brokenness gives birth to transformation and wisdom. Amen. Ashe, and so it is, with love and peace always and forevermore. Your spiritual mirror.
Oh, Ziggy, may I say Ziggy now?
Yes, you can.
Oh, that is so special and so gracious, and I am so grateful to you. You know what? The enemy tried to mess us up with technology, but I think we got the message across, and I believe with all my heart that the audience is feeling the love. They feel your journey. They feel the points of challenges. They feel the overcoming spirit and nature. I think most importantly, they probably feel your need, your desire, your passion to give back and positively impact the lives of others. So I want to thank you. Let me say this. If someone wants to talk to you about sickle cell or what you're doing, how can they do that, Ziggy, quickly?
Okay. I will give my cell phone and my email address.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So my email address is Z as in zebra, Brandon, BRAN as in Nancy, DON, at Verizon.net. They can reach me on my cell at 267-241-5338 or on our office phone here at the Sickle Cell Association. That's area code 215-471-8686.
Oh, thank you so much. I want to add just a couple of little something, little encouragement from our spiritual doggy bag to take with. I believe that there comes a time in everyone's life, sometimes it's more frequent than others, when you just sit there and say, you know what, is this all there is? Or maybe you say, hey, I am tired of being tired. Well, I want you to understand that when you're at that point in time, I want you to think about and double check your label. You are not a markdown. You are a designer's original. God has set your value. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. I want you to surround yourself with people who can remind you of who you were created to be. But most importantly, understand no matter what you're going through, you are not alone. And the most significant lesson that I have learned that I want to give to everybody is that you are not your circumstances. What is happening to you is not who you are. And at the same time, nothing that has happened to you in your life will be wasted. And that includes the good and the bad and the scary. Remember, it's a process. It's not an event. You have everything you need within you to thrive. All you have to do is say yes to the power within you. Remember, everybody needs a place, but it shouldn't be inside someone else. I'm going to ask Mr. Tony Walker to take us home with the piano version of our theme song. And I want you to remember, your seat is guaranteed. All you got to do is show up. I'm waiting for you. Thanks again to Reverend Zemoria Brandon. Next time, bye now.